While the world watches Trump shake up global trade, something big is happening in Europe. A new power bloc is emerging. The E5, France, Germany, the UK, Italy, and Poland. They're not waiting for NATO. They're not waiting for America. They're building their own defense path, and it could change everything. Is this Europe's answer to uncertainty? Is it strength or is it desperation? Hit like, subscribe, and drop a take in the comments. Can the E5 actually fill NATO's shoes? Let's break it down. For decades, NATO has been the backbone of European defense, a symbol of transatlantic unity and a deterrent to aggression. But cracks in that unity are beginning to show. With President Trump once again in the White House, questions over America's commitment to NATO are no longer hypothetical. They're real, they're urgent, and Europe is paying attention. Enter the E5. 5 of the continent's most influential nations are now coordinating more closely on security. France brings nuclear capabilities and military reach in Africa. The UK contributes intelligence and expeditionary experience. Germany, Europe's economic powerhouse, offers industry and logistics. Italy, vital to southern security and migration control. Poland, on the eastern edge, stands at the first line of defense against Russian aggression. These countries are forming a coalition within the coalition. They may not be leaving NATO, but they're clearly hedging against its decline. They want more agility, more autonomy, and more say over Europe's future. The E5 isn't being built on treaties or institutions, not yet. It's informal, fast-moving, and designed to bypass the bureaucratic bottlenecks of both NATO and the European Union. These nations, they're frustrated by slow consensus, unclear mandates, and reliance on the US that may not always show up. So they're starting to take matters into their own hands. Joint military planning is already underway. Common threat assessments are being drafted. Intelligence sharing, logistical coordination, and rapid deployment exercises are quietly ramping up. The E5 wants to act decisively without waiting for unanimity from 27 EU states or political will from Washington. Still, challenges remain. Each country brings its own history, strategic priorities, and leadership ambitions. France and Germany often see themselves as the natural leaders of Europe. The UK, it's balancing its post-Brexit independence with its NATO commitments. Poland's deep suspicion of Russian influence puts it at odds with Western European caution. The question isn't just whether they can work together, but really for how long. The E5 isn't necessarily aiming to replace NATO, not officially, but its existence tells a deeper story. First, trust in NATO is eroding, not because it has failed, but because its leadership is fractured. Europe, no longer sure it can count on the United States, and the US is clearly rethinking its role. What the E5 does is provide an insurance policy. If NATO falters, if Article 5 becomes political instead of automatic, then Europe still has something to fall back on. And that's not just a smart move, that's strategy. Military analysts across Europe are already modeling scenarios where the E5 responds to crisis without US support. And those scenarios are becoming less hypothetical by the day. But the deeper implication is this. If NATO becomes optional, it starts to become obsolete. When once nations prepare to go around an alliance, they start questioning whether that alliance is still worth saving. I think this is where America is at with that alliance right now. We are living in a world where regionalism is replacing globalism. The age of blanket alliances and multinational security umbrellas is fading. In its place, smaller, more focused coalitions are taking shape. The E5 is just the European version of that trend. In the Indo-Pacific, we see similar moves. With the Quad and AUKUS. In the Middle East, power blocs are forming based on necessity rather than ideology. And in Latin America and Africa, regional defense arrangements are becoming more common as traditional global powers retreat. The E5 is just Europe acknowledging this shift. It's no longer about loyalty to institutions built in the 20th century. It's about survival in the 21st century. So here's the question. Is the E5 the future of European defense, or just a temporary fix until the next American administration reaffirms NATO? Either way, the message is clear. Europe is not going to stand still. It's going to build its own options. And that tells us more about the future of global power than any press conference. Let us know what you think in the comments. Can the E5 hold together? Will other nations join? And what happens to NATO if this bloc proves it can lead without Washington? Don't forget to like and subscribe. This is Frank for America's Geopolitics. See you next time.